Let's talk about what could be the most explosive issue of this campaign if the mass media would get a hold of it and do something about it, but they're covering it up. And that is you were talking about the government involvement in drugs. There have been government investigations, there have been private investigations, and we've interviewed a lot of people, ex-CIA people, who have talked about the CIA involvement in drug operations for many decades. It's public knowledge, though once again the media are not saying anything about it, that Oliver North and his people involved with the Contras have been running drug operations, cocaine primarily, bringing it back into the United States. And there are other investigations which show that George Bush's office, Donald Gregg particularly, and the people he was working with, have been supervising an enormous drug operation, which once again was sending illegal arms down to the Contras and elsewhere, and bringing cocaine and other types of drugs back into the United States. But neither the Democrats aren't talking about this. Now, are the Libertarians talking about this, and do they put this into the framework of the drug law situation that you're talking about?
We talk about a whole lot. Of course, we always have the trouble of getting the attention that we think it deserves. There have been a few Democrats have talked about it. Senator Kerry's office has done some work.
He's done a lot of the investigation.
Right, and I think he's on to something, and I think we've gotten some other information too, of course, that the CIA has given Noriega over the years $200,000 a year.
Oh, yes.
And they kept feeding him money, even when Bush was the head of the CIA. I think George Bush is deep into it, well over his head. Somebody asked me once if I thought George Bush knew about as much was going on as Ronald Reagan. I think George Bush knew a lot more about what was happening in the CIA, because I think Reagan was probably more removed from it, I mean, just by his own personality and maybe his age or something. But I think George Bush, through his office and through the fact that he was a member of this, head of the CIA, I think he was very, very close to it. He knows exactly what was happening, and I believe the rule that once a CIA member, always a CIA member. And I think it's awful interesting. Can you imagine? It would alarm a few of us in this country if all of a sudden we knew that the leader in the Soviet Union would be the head KGB agent, and here we take our head CIA agent and put him, potentially the head of our entire country. Unfortunately, I wish that we could get this information out, and I continue to talk about it, but I sadly believe that there will be very little said, which means that the Democrats aren't doing it. That means they're involved too.
They're involved also.
And I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, it was even some of it got reported in the Iran-Contra scandals. We did know that there were drugs involved, and they were selling drugs back and forth. I think that might be the #1 reason for the drug laws. I mean, they use and play on the good people of America to support them, but I think the #1 reason is not to have high prices for some two-bit drug dealer, as much as to raise the funds necessary for governments to do illegal things, whether it's some terrorist government someplace or whether it's our own CIA to fund programs that they can't get Congress to fund. I think it's tragic, and the sooner we get rid of the drug laws, the sooner this would end.
There is a great push now for some type of national health service, national health care. The United States is the only Western capitalist country outside of South Africa, if you consider that an advanced Western capitalist country, which doesn't have some type of comprehensive health care system. Are the Libertarians for this, or are they against it?
Well, we're for a comprehensive health care system, and we want everybody to have major medical coverage and the best insurance and the best medical care. That's why medical care has to be delivered by the free market. If we don't care about medical care and quality, if you like lines, and if you like the medical care the Indians get, and if you're happy with the Veterans Hospital, and if you're happy with how England runs things in the Soviet Union, then I guess we need another move in the direction of socialized medicine. Government now, even though we don't have a major national program, government now delivers 60% of the health care in this country. The more we spend, the higher the costs, the lower the quality, less people can get the care. I mean, it's a lousy delivery system. Poor people who can buy their TVs and cars and video cassette recorders have no health care. They buy the VCRs and their television and the cars in the marketplace. They get their health care through government program. With all this spending, there are still 38 million people who have no insurance whatsoever. Just devising another government program which won't work, but just further push up costs and put controls and more doctors dropping out. And I think it's a total disaster. If it's a national health program run by the government, it's tragic. It won't work. It's going to ruin the care in the country. If we care about people, we will have a national health care program, but it will be delivered by the free market.
But the free market is what we have now. We have bad health care. We have a greater percentage of GNP being spent on health care than those countries where they have a government-sponsored
system. I don't agree. I don't think that we have free market medicine. As I said, it's 60% is paid by government. We have coercive rules that force governments into these HMO organizations. Government, the large companies had to offer these things, so they've been growing and now going bankrupt. And when you pump a lot of money in, if government's paying the bills through Medicare or Medicaid, this doesn't spread the money out. A lot of wealthy people get the benefits. The poor people don't seem to get through the the maze of papers. But a lot of millionaires receive Medicare benefits, so they get their hospital payments. But when they go in and pay and have a little insurance, what happens? The hospitals and the doctors and the labs tend to jack up the prices. So, and then the government has to come in and say, well, we're going to put on controls because the prices are too high, and then we're going to ration care. So one problem leads to the next. But the problems you see today are a result of 50 years of ever-increasing government intervention in medicine. The government doesn't pay for 60% of our automobiles, but they pay for 60% of our medical care. The automobile prices are high, but they're not as high proportionally speaking. Cost of automobiles is going up at the rate of about 4 or 5% a year. The cost of medical care is going up about 15 or 20%. Government's in education. They're in college education. They're always subsidizing college education. Always the guy that doesn't get to go to college has to subsidize the guy that gets to go. Cost of education is going up about 15 to 20%. So as soon as you get government involved, quality does not go up, but the cost goes up, and there's not any fair distribution.
Where do you stand on the right to lifers? Are those folks like you, the anti-abortion people like the libertarians?
It's mixed. They like me because I'm a right-to-life libertarian. I believe killing a fetus is an act of aggression. I've been forced to be in a room, unfortunately, when I saw a 3-pound fetus, infant, taken out, breathing and crying, and thrown in a bucket. I mean, I take my pledge seriously. I mean, that to me looked like an act of aggression. Besides, if I give the wrong medication as a physician to a mother and I damage the fetus, when it's born can sue me. Obviously, it was legal, alive, and human, or it wouldn't be able to sue me. I know the fetus determines its inheritance rights at the time of conception. So I'm in disagreement with our platform. But there were enough libertarians who agree with my position that I went on the first ballot at our convention. The truth is, it's a difficult issue, and nobody likes to think about it because the way the law states now under Roe versus Wade, the fetus 1 second before birth at the weight of 9 pounds still has no legal rights, and nobody enjoys defending that position. Very difficult, because I, as a libertarian, I don't like to interfere with the privacy of a woman either. But how are we going to deal with this? I think we have to have respect for human life, or we can't have respect for individual liberty and the right to smoke a cigarette.
So you think the government has the right to force a woman to carry a fetus full term then?
Well, I think the government has the right to protect life. It's sort of like saying if the baby's born and the IQ is 65 and they wanted 100, does the government have the right to force that person not to kill their baby? Yes, I do think so. I think the government has a right to protect life, but the government doesn't have the right to force anything. So it is difficult, obviously. But I think the bottom line is killing a fetus an act of aggression. And the only way the libertarians or others who disagree with me on that, they would have to say that no, it's obviously an act of aggression. There's no debate there. It's that the fetus is not a person. The fetus is not alive and it's not human. And I, as a physician, have a lot of trouble with that. I mean, I know it's alive, I know it's human, I know it's legal. So this is very unique, and I don't advocate any federal laws. I don't even, we libertarians nor this system that we have advocated federal laws to deal with theft or murder or anything. It's all handled by the state. So I think that the states would handle it differently. I think courts would handle it differently. I think juries would handle it differently. But I think under my ideal situation, we wouldn't have people having abortion on demand and using it as birth control and having a careless attitude about life, and instead of having less illegitimate pregnancies or births, illegitimate or unwanted pregnancies, now it actually, it was intended to help difficult situations. But what it has done is that the teenager sometimes can have 3 abortions in a year, which is sad, and it's a tragedy. And I've seen the tragedies, I've witnessed them, and I have great empathy for them, but I also have great respect for the principles of freedom, and I don't want to infringe or compromise my concept of what liberty is.